Welcome back to From the Bench, everybody. As always, it's Eric, and today we're going to talk about sports card grading, in particular hockey cards, since that's what this channel kind of revolves around, whether it's opening boxes, grading, setting up with card shows to buy and sell them. This channel kind of revolves around hockey cards in general. And whether you guys are brand new in the hobby, or maybe you have been in it for a few years, or have been in it for decades, and same thing if you maybe never graded a card, or graded a handful of them, or maybe graded thousands, I'm hoping this video for 2024 is a good one for you guys to kind of watch and kind of allow me to give you guys some information and some data and some kind of things to think about, whether it comes down to what grading company to grade with, grading company not to grade with, different kind of facts and stuff. And a lot of this stuff are going to be my opinions and kind of what I think of the whole thing. And you guys can let me know down in the comments what you guys think at the same time, whether you like certain companies or don't like certain companies. Maybe you disagree with me on something I say throughout the video, or maybe you just love grading, or maybe you don't like grading at all. That's a potential thing too. The more comments down below, the better. But there is a thing where through all of this, we have become very focused on taking our sports cards and putting them into different kinds of plastic with different labels on them and everything else. So if you guys want, make sure you guys hit like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram. There's a bunch of stuff that I kind of do on this channel, and be more than happy to show you guys. I also have a case of Series 2 to open up for the channel, so you guys don't want to miss out on that. But like I said, there's a whole lot when it comes to grading, and we'll just switch over real quick. We'll start here with Gem Rate over on Instagram. If you guys haven't followed them yet, follow them. Some great information if you guys do like grading. But PSA at the top, they're the king. It's no doubt about it for sure. 1.24 million cards graded in February. So these numbers are hot off the press. That is in 29 days, not 30 or 31. But 1.24 million cards graded for PSA. CGC, which is more known for their comic book grading, they also do some card grading. They had 165,000. SGC, the tuxedo slab themselves, 146,000. And Beckett, good old trusty Beckett, pulling up the rear here for the big four at 66,000 cards graded for the month of February. Moving over, just if we stick into sports and miscellaneous, 723,000 for PSA, 130,000 for SGC, 34,000 for Beckett. And then CGC pulling up the rear in 12,000. And if that's the case, that means when we'll just switch over here real quick for TCG, so your Pokemon, Magic, etc., 516,000 graded for PSA, 151,000 for CGC, Beckett with 32,000, and SGC pulling up the rear when it comes to your TCG at 17,000. Beckett's a little higher than them because a lot of people chase for Pokemon. That BGS 10 or the BGS Black label, because sometimes they come out in better shape with the Pokemon cards. So like I said, a ton of cards. That is like 1.5 million cards between the big four graded in February, with 1.24 million of them being from PSA. And one of the things you guys are going to talk about when you're looking at, grading sports cards, you're going to think a couple things. What is the value, right? What is it going to cost me to grade this card? What is the turnaround time? So how fast from when I send it off to them do I get the card back? And then what is my card going to sell for potentially when it comes back as a gem mint? What is that whole thing looking like? So we'll switch over to PSA first. PSA, if you have a Collectors Club membership, $19. If you have don't have that membership, it's $25 US. These are all US prices. And that gives you a 45 business day turnaround. My last order was just under a month. This one here looks like it's going to be closer to a month and a half to 2 months. The last one I sent out. So it kind of gives you an idea there. And then big thing that everyone talks about with PSA is that they upcharge you if you have a card. Yes, they will upcharge you. If your card is worth more than $500 US, they potentially might upcharge you. I can tell you right now, I've never been upcharged, and I've definitely sent some cards over that threshold, over that $500. So I usually will just if it's me, I would just roll the dice at the $25 and see what happens. Let them decide how much they're going to upcharge you if they're going to on a card. Maybe they just look the other way and they just charge you $25. Big thing here too, if you are in Canada, PSA Canada, which is located down in Halifax, they're affiliated with PSA as a whole. You can ship your cards to them. They're $27. They're not a sponsor of the channel or nothing like that, but $27 right now to ship it to them. So, and there's no minimum. You can send 1 card, 10 cards, whatever. And then they ship them down for you to the States to get graded in the States. They get them back and they'll either ship them back to you or you can pick them up at their Halifax location. But the upcharge, if it's a $2,000 Canadian card or $1,500 US, is $75 US, so $100 Canadian, $130 US if it's a $2,500 US or less card. So they have their things. Once again, if your card's getting upcharged from PSA, that's a good thing in the long run, as you'll kind of see here in a little bit. Next up, we'll go number 2 for the sports card grading. It was SGC. It's, like I said, the tuxedo slab themselves. $15 for their grading service. That's a 5 to 10 day turnaround. They're kind of more on that 10-day apparently lately. Big thing here too, I forgot to mention. I originally started recording this video. I was going to record this video earlier this week. And then that day was the day that SGC got bought out by collectors who own PSA. So I kind of put a little wrinkle in everything. I said, well, I probably should wait a couple days. SGC's come out and said, hey, no, we're going to keep everything the same. It is business as usual for SGC. I'll have to see about that long term, but that's a big kind of what happens maybe for grading in maybe not so much the March grading numbers. That will be kind of cool to see. Probably more the April ones, because the March numbers will be stuff that was still sent, I guess, in February. So you might still get some of the carryover there, but definitely going to be interesting to see some of the numbers for March and April in particular for SGC to kind of see what is kind of going on there. But it's a 10-day turnaround, $15 a card US, so $20 Canadian essentially. So again, big guys. They are a huge player when it comes to vintage cards, probably more than anybody else in here other than PSA. Vintage SGC is very highly regarded. Maybe not as much when it comes to more modern stuff. And then we'll get into the good old trusty Beckett, the #1 grading card service in the industry. I don't know about that anymore. $18 for the collector special, $22 for the base, $60 business day turnaround time. You can go standard, pay a little bit more, 10 to 20 day business turnaround. Big thing here, Beckett shouldn't even offer this without subgrades. Beckett, your whole bread and butter is that you got the subgrades. That you should be leaning into that so much. Nobody wants to buy a Beckett card without subgrades. It just doesn't make sense. Why this is even an option just hurts my head. So just take this off the website. There's a million things wrong with Beckett. That is just one of them, but it's one of those things that really annoy me about Beckett. Once again, other ones you get Express for 10 business days and 140 for 2 to 5 business days. Beckett typically now seems like they want to be more the higher end guys for your patch auto cards and stuff like that. So essentially with them being a thicker card, maybe it's got a bad edge because of the thicker card, some chipping or whatever. You don't think it can PSA 10. But you think that's the only issue with the card. The centering is good, the corners are good, everything else. So you think maybe I can get a BGS 9.5. So that kind of seems where Beckett kind of is living with that, the thicker cards and stuff like that. Not so much your base cards. And then CGC, once again, they're not really a player when it comes to sports cards, but there's their pricing there. Gonna get into some numbers here when it comes to Young Guns, different Young Guns from the past few years that are the more popular guys that kind of obviously sell more. And once again, we're the top of their class. So we'll start off with 2021-22. We got Cole Caulfield. So here's his PSA 10 Young Guns. 200, 230, some 190, so essentially 197, 183, 180, back up to 230, 235. So probably say 205, 210 as you go down through these pretty consistently, even obviously some that are 230 plus, but we'll just say 205 or 210 for the Cole Caulfield. If you look over here, we'll go to SGC 10 of the same card, 161, 188, 170, 160, way back in December. Another big thing here, they don't sell that often. Obviously not as many probably graded, but you're essentially looking at $160 to $170. This one's kind of a little bit higher, but essentially probably more that $160 range. Big thing here, 46 sales here, 707 sales. Okay. So a lot more sales here of the PSA 10. If you guys haven't yet, also there's an affiliate link down below for Card Ladder Pro. It's either a monthly or a yearly subscription. And essentially, if you guys decide to sign up, I get like a $3 kickback from your subscription. But it's kind of the best way to kind of look up cards and for comps and stuff like that. In my personal opinion, ebay.com or ebay.ca or 130 Point, you get the last 2 or 3 months of sales. This you're able to get all the time. I can go and check sales for stuff from 2015, 2005. I can check sales for all that stuff as long as it was on eBay, PWCC, Heritage, Gold, and all that. I get all the sales. So next up, skipped ahead too much. 9.5 Beckett, so 165 is the only one that's sold since December 5th. So once again, quite a bit less than that PSA sale. So once again, it doesn't really make sense to go with anybody else in this situation other than PSA. You'll see here in a couple minutes some of the big differences here. Next up, we saw my guy, Cale Makar from my Colorado Avalanche, 557, 550, 660, 669, or 693, 633, 640, 693. So this is like a $600 to $700 card, 550, I guess. We'll just say like 630 for a card, right? 625, even though a lot of them are selling for more than that. We'll just say a $630 card for Cale, even just 600. 747 of those have sold. If we move over here to SGC, we have 58 sales, 408, 380, 500, 537. But really, if you look here, these are lots like a couple months since January 1st, I guess even December 31st. Not a whole lot of sales and quite a bit less. While, like I said, Cale over here, these are all March and February. How much it transacts and how many people are looking for a PSA 10 compared to an SGC 10 is just. And all these green check marks show that it was a verified sale, so it was paid for and everything else. Next up, 78 results for a BGS 9.5. So 360 or 370, 360, 317. Probably depends on the subgrades, everything else. That one actually has these have no subgrades. So the no subgrades actually did better than the subgrades. That's weird to me. But then this one did 330. That's just odd. Either way, yeah. Quite a bit less. You're talking hundreds of dollars less to grade with these other grading companies than you would be with a PSA 10. And by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but those are all Canadian numbers for all these. So that would be below the upcharge level for all that. Next up, some guy named Austin Matthews, pretty good at scoring, apparently. Big sale here, $1,900 for a PSA 10. These are selling. You could pick them up for like $11,000 to $1,100 at the expo. Now a $1,900 card. This one $1,500, $1,645, $1,632, $1,600. So we'll just say a $1,600 card all day long with obviously some higher sales here and there. These ones are around $17 for PSA 10. Once again, these sell all the time. 1,400 sales total in the history for the Austin Matthews. SGC only at 20 sales, 1,300 for this one. But then if you go back here, it's 800, 800, 700. So quite a bit less. Even if this, you're still $300 off. Even if you want to say the upcharge of say, from 25 to 75, it's a $50, difference in grading cost. Even the $50, you're going to make $250 to $350 all day long, more than an SGC 10. And then you get Beckett, back then, 2016, 17. A lot of these were graded with Beckett. 679 total sales. 963 once again with Beckett. The big thing is the subgrades. So this one here is a 9.5, 9.5, 9.5 with a 9. I do have one of these, full disclosure. That's a Gem Mint Plus, so 3 9.5s and a 10. It usually sells for a little bit better when you have either a Gem Mint, total, which is just 4 9.5s. Gem Mint Plus would be a 3.9.5s plus a 10. They would usually sell better than a, like here, 950, I guess. So sometimes your Gem Mint Plus will sell for a little bit more. This one was a 4 of 9.5s. It sold for 1050. So same thing. You're still losing out on a ton of money by having this graded with Beckett compared to like a PSA. And then finishing off here, we got some guy named Connor McDavid. 3,200. That one hasn't been verified yet, but the 3,500 was. This 3,500 was. This $3,200 one was. So 3,300. So we'll just say a $3,300 card for a PSA 10 Connor McDavid. 1,400 total sales for a PSA 10 of McDavid in the history of the internet. SGC 10. This one doesn't make sense to me. It's 3,800. It's not verified as being paid for yet. This one here, though, 2,300 was verified on February 29th. So I don't understand why somebody would pay 3,800 for this one, which is more than a PSA 10. But then, in the last couple of days, last week, we had a couple selling for 23 and 25. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. That one kind of seems like an outlier that doesn't make sense to me. But once again, quite a big difference here between those ones. And then same thing, BGS, a lot of like a 7,000 pop count here for McDavid and a BGS 9.5, because Beckett was, once again, a giant company back in the day before they just dropped the ball on everything. 1,700, 1,500, 2,000, 1,700. So you're half the price of a PSA 10 for a Connor McDavid BGS 9.5. So once again, some big swings here. I understand, like, I'm not sponsored by PSA. I have no affiliation with PSA. If you look at the numbers, why would you grade with the other two for any of these cards? But especially, like I said, the three big ones here. Why would you grade with anybody else other than PSA for this? With upcharges, if you want to use that as your excuse or whatever it is, if you get upcharged by PSA, it's probably going to be a good thing, and you're probably still, once again, going to make more money selling it with them. Before we get into it, I know there's some of you guys that are probably just smashing single finger, just bashing the keyboard and getting angry and saying, hey, why didn't you talk about the grading company of the future? Tag grading. Their words, not mine. Thought I would show you guys here. So we got the economy, which is the 30 to 40 day minimum with the 25 card minimum, $12 a card American, $24 for the sold out S score grading style. We'll get into that in a second. Standard 5 to 10 days turnaround, no card minimum. You're going to get charged a little bit more, $15 a card for that 5 to 10 days, or $30 a card for the S score. I should probably have this in a different video, but I'm not going to. Tag. The whole thing with Tag, them having this, the X score, just kills it for me. Your bread and butter and your whole claim to fame is that you are a 1,000-point grading system and you can see everything and this and that, all this fancy stuff with your 1,000-point grading system. Lean into that. Really lean into that and show off your 1,000-point grading system. This should never be a thing. Your 10-point grading scale should never be a thing. It just makes zero sense to me. The 1,000 points should always be your thing, and that's why I just can't take tags serious. A company that obviously doesn't believe in themselves, if they can't even stick to their own, what is their claim to fame, I can't take you serious. I just can't. And before you guys start, the tag boss out in here, as neocards and comics like to call them, before you guys start coming at me, they grade 1 million cards a month, blah, blah. They're the grading company of the future. Here's the tag grading numbers. With a giant 13,000 group submission Pokemon order for January. I don't have the February numbers, sorry. But for January numbers, $13,000 giant group submission for Pokemon, which that seems odd to me. That would make 4,500 cards graded. Just switch over here for a second. If we just switch to sports cards, CGC, who is not known for sports, and by all cases is irrelevant with the sports card hobby, 12,000 cards. You guys, minus the Pokemon, 4,500. So you're essentially just over a third of the cards graded than the company that is irrelevant when it comes to sports card grading. You're also a long way behind Beckett, who is a failing company. PSA essentially has 718,000 more cards graded than you, but I'm sure they're the company of the future. 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. They're ramping up. You can say whatever you want. And this isn't anything against tag. This is just in general. It goes the same way when I look at places like MNT. They're a Canadian company that grades cards. And I know I had a couple people message me on Instagram and stuff and asked me, said, "Hey, Eric, my local hobby shop said I should grade with MNT. What is your thoughts on that?" And my thought was, hey, you should probably go to a different hobby shop. If these guys are trying to say they're looking out for you and that you should grade with M&T, they obviously don't care about you. They don't care about your business. They don't care about how you're spending your money. They're just looking to make a couple extra bucks and not actually believe in a product that they're telling you to use. Because for $20 a card Canadian, or maybe even less, maybe it's 18, maybe it's 15, who knows? I don't know what they're charging. That's their value submission. That's as cheap as they have. So maybe it's cheaper to grade with them. Maybe they even get a better deal. I'll just show you two cards. You got a Uri Slafkovsky. February 28th, this sold. Best offer, $105 for an MNT 9.5 with the subgrades. Holy, look at that. A PSA 10. 370, 380, 330. If your local hobby shop is telling you to grade with M&T because they think it's the right thing to do, they do not care about you. They are trying to make some money. Same with KSA, another Canadian company. It's nothing against these guys. It's just when there is that much of a discrepancy between price and what the ROI on some of this stuff is, I don't understand about grading with any of these guys. It just doesn't make sense. Tag would be the one I'd pick between the three of them for sure. But just even this one doesn't make sense to me. And probably won't for a long time. You guys can kind of see I've obviously leaned to PSA for all of this. I'm sure there's people that are like, you're a sellout, this and that, blah, blah. I just looked at the numbers. Like if I look at numbers and something leans completely into one direction, I'm probably going to lean to that direction because why wouldn't you? Like I said, even just the overall grading numbers, and you go to a card show or you're selling online or you're trying to trade or whatever it is, more often than not, people are going to be looking for that PSA 10. They're going to be looking for that PSA slab compared to any other slab out there. Don't matter what company it is. And I know some people say, well, Eric, I'm just grading this and it's just going in the PC. I don't even care about the card. I'm just encapsulating, I'm just for the PC. And that's fine and dandy. Okay. I understand that. I understand where you're coming from a little bit. The thing here though, is that even if it's a PC item, which once again, everyone likes to use that word, and I have a lot of PC cards right to the left of me. PC works until, hey, I want to say upgrade the card. Right? We'll go good scenario. I want to upgrade the card. I want to sell this PSA 10 Young Gun I have. I got one or two of these, and I got a couple of different cards of this guy, and I want to upgrade into a nice Future Watch auto, or I want to upgrade into another better card of this guy. Okay. Your most value you're going to get is by having the card that's most valuable, which is in the slab, which gives you the most value. So if you're trying to trade up into a raw Future Watch auto or something, well, you have to, once again, if you have all these cards and they're the more valuable, you can trade into it without having to trade as many cards or add as much money on top of it. Maybe that player gets traded. We'll just use whoever. Uri Slafkovsky. We'll just use him, right? Uri gets traded tomorrow from Montreal. They say, no, what? We don't want to deal with Uri anymore. We saw it with, Kotkaniemi back in the day. We don't want to deal with him anymore. He's not worth it. We're going to ship him off. Go tell me how much a Kotkaniemi card sells for right now in any slab. And maybe you just said, okay, I don't want the guy anymore. He's traded. I'm getting out of him. Or maybe he leaves and he says, I don't want to, I hate the team. I hate the city, whatever. You're like, okay, I don't want to collect this guy anymore. Same thing. You want to get the most ROI back from this player. You want to get as much money back as possible from him. Who knows? People demand trades all the time nowadays. Lots of reasons why you might not have this player. Or maybe you're saying, hey, I'm getting out of the hobby completely. I want to sell my collection. Same thing. Why wouldn't you want to get the most return on investment for that? Or maybe you just are saying, hey, I got some bills I got to pay. I'm super behind on stuff. I'm going to have to sell my cards or sell some of my cards to pay for some of my bills. It's life. If anybody's looked outside nowadays, the world is a scary place, and a lot of everything costs more money nowadays. Sometimes these hobbies have to take a backseat and you have to sell some stuff. So once again, why wouldn't you want the most return on investment from what you're grading? I understand it's PC, but what happens if it's not PC? And when you come back into something like Tag, for example, if you're grading with Tag, they're the grading company of the future. Do you know who else was the grading company of the future at one point? HGA, who's on the same list as them. HGA now sells, grades 1,000 cards, 2,000 cards a month. They were a big company 2 years ago. In the whole boom and everything else, they had a fancy slab. They had subgrades. They had all this stuff. I graded with HGA. There's a lot of people that grade with HGA, especially with the backlog with PSA and everything else. HGA got graded with a ton. And now they're sitting here grading 1,000 cards, and nobody cares about HGA. Nobody. But they're grading 1,000 cards a month. Okay? So from the top of the top, and who knows, maybe Tag is around for the next 40 years. There's also potential that Tag's not around in 5 years. Tag could be in the same situation as HGA in 5 years. Who knows? The luster, wears off. They do something weird with their marketing. The business as a whole is just weird for them, and people lose interest in them. They're like, nope, we're out. Then you're stuck with a bunch of slabs of a company that nobody cares about anymore. Okay. How about the other scenario I talked about earlier? Okay. SGC graded 146,000 cards last month. They got bought out. 146 is 140,000 more, or we'll just say 130,000 more than Tag just graded last month. And they just got bought out by PSA. And maybe once again, SGC stays as SGC forever. Or maybe they just become PSA Vintage in 2 years. Or maybe they just get dissolved in their corporation and they just use their headquarters for grading instead. And they don't become a thing anymore. Who knows? And nobody knows. Once again, they say they're going to keep everything as status quo. But it could change. And that's for a big company who has a lot of respect in this industry. Who has a massive vintage following. And they just got bought up by a giant company. And people are worried about them and what their future is. What happens if Tag all of a sudden gets bought out? Maybe it all of a sudden becomes, they get bought out by a scenario, Fanatics. Okay. Tag gets bought out by Fanatics. Okay. You have all these tag slabs. You have 200 tag slabs sitting around your house. Well, all of a sudden it's no longer tag grading. It's now Fanatics grading. Nobody wants a tag slab anymore. It doesn't have the fancy new Fanatics grading logo on it. And in 2 years, guess who really doesn't want a tag grading slab? Anybody. They want the Fanatics grading slab that's been going on for 2 years now. So now you have all this money baked into a company that might not even, and that's one scenario where it's like, okay, well, we're just going to get bought out by a company, get rebranded, not as tag anymore. We're just going to get rebranded, but it's still going to be tag as an essence, right? The slab's the same, this and that's the same. Maybe they get bought out by Beckett. This is probably not, this is just another random scenario. They get bought out by Beckett. Beckett says, this is the way we're going to bring back Beckett. This is how we're going to become the number one card grading service in the industry again. Is we're going to insert their AI grading thing here going on. We're going to bring that in. We're going to meld all of our stuff together. We're going to become the biggest company, by doing it. And it no longer becomes, they're just using their background and they all of a sudden are just molded into Beckett. Do you think anybody cares about tag grading at that point? No, because now they're just Beckett, right? That's another scenario where they just get sucked into another company. So there's one where we get rebranded. There's another scenario where it's, hey, we just get dissolved entirely. Or there's the other chance that it's like, hey, we just don't become a thing in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. And there's the other chance that they go up. But even then, I know they're a newer company, but 4,500 sports cards compared to, even if you want to say Beckett, 3,500, or even if you want to say SGC is 130,000. That is 125,000 more than what Tag just did. That is a ton of cards. Not to mention the biggest one at the top, which is PSA. So I understand why people talk about this, and this isn't just about Tag. This is about any of these lower end companies that you see. I think there's an ASG I saw the other day, and there's obviously, if you look at this one, there's Arena Club, and there's all these. It's just, once again, where you're putting your money and what can you expect long term, right? Anything can happen with this. Anything can happen with your cards. It's just about, I know people hate the word investment when it comes to sports cards. I understand that. But at the end of the day, it is an investment, and it is something that if you want to one day make money off of or have to sell or get out of, why not try to get the most money back out of this stuff? Once again, I understand different slabs and different this, blah, blah. But even just like I said, the easeability to sell everything, I don't think that's a word, but the easeability to sell something, whether it's on eBay or at a show or whatever, like I said, you go to a show, the most transacted slabs in that place, I guarantee you are going to be a PSA slab every time. So I said, I understand I'm coming off as a PSA fanboy, and it is what it is. It's at the end of the day, it's just numbers. So once again, I know there's going to be a whole lot of you guys here making your comments and different opinions on this, which is great. I want to hear all of them. I want to hear you guys go off in the comments. I think it's great when you guys do that. And I know there's going to be a lot of new people in this, right? With Bedard and all that comes with this hobby in 2024, with his young guns and other young guns, Fantilli and Cooley and everything else from when Extended comes out, and even Leo Carlos, like there's a whole lot of guys and a whole lot of products coming out, and that's going to bring in a whole lot of new people into this hobby, right? So many new of you guys are going to be coming into this hobby because of Bedard and because of the hype. So hopefully I said, gave you guys a little bit of insight, a little bit of background. I know it kind of went off in the end on just the different lower end grading companies, whether it was Tag or Mint or M&T, or KSA. It's nothing like against them. Like I said, I know I hear all the time that it's the grading company of the future and all the potential. Like I said, a name change, dissolvement into another company, just not becoming what they were supposed to, not living up to the hype. Like there's so many things that could go wrong with this. And I see a lot of you guys blindly going into this because you heard that they're great. And And I just try to put a little bit of caution on you guys and what you guys are kind of thinking through all this. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Like, if you guys haven't yet, hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you guys are interested in consigning your cards, Slab Sharks is down below. The affiliate link down there. Card Ladder Pro, once again, you guys saw all those prices. They all came from Card Ladder Pro, and all the info off that. If you guys want to check out the Card Ladder affiliate link, also down below. I'd be more than happy if you guys did that. Like I said, great way to support the channel and also use a great product. But hopefully you guys enjoy this. Like I said, if you guys haven't yet, do all that stuff. And for Eric from the bench, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.